Hello everyone and welcome to yet another day in this The Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better, and if you want to stay up to date with all things Clown Decade, please do subscribe to the channel and of course become a member. And over the weekend there were a large number of protests going on all over England, including Leeds, Newcastle, London, and the images you are seeing on screen right now are from Manchester, which was easily the biggest, with claims that from this video alone I can trust, saying that there were over 1,000 people there. This was a Britain First organised protest. I do not believe most of these people will be explicitly Britain First. I reckon it's one of those things Britain First organised and asked around local people to come join in, and obviously they have. Because Britain First is one of those organisations that's usually called far right, and it's one that I don't have too much of a problem with, because it was set up by ex-BNP activists and councillors as well, I think, and ultimately is still run by ex-BNP people who don't particularly mind repeating typical BNP points, I'll put it that way. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to allow anyone to smear all these people as BNP supporters or anything like that, because I don't think they really care who organised this, and I don't really think they care the fact that it was called a remigration march. I think they just want to make it clear they are fed up with the rate of migration we have been suffering with, especially over the last 4 years, but basically for the last 3 decades. But obviously, as you'd expect from a massive march like this, anti-immigration, remigration, doesn't really matter what language is used, you're always going to have it kicking off between stand-up to racism activists who are typically bussed in from elsewhere, though no doubt they'll have some sort of Manchester chapter, and obviously with masked up, well, usually locals, let's be fair, who some of the time are basically agging for a fight. That's why they mask up, and some stand up to racism activists and Antifa will have been there too. Police seem to largely do their job of keeping them split up, and largely there was no fighting, just a few bottles thrown at each other. Largely successful from the police, to be honest with you. They allowed a protest and counter-protest to largely go without incident. Honestly, out of all police forces, Manchester Police, or Greater Manchester Police, is probably one of the better ones. It's something that seems to be forgotten quite a lot, but not every police force is the same. South Yorkshire Police, awful. Met Police, pretty bad too. Greater Manchester Police, genuinely improved over the last few years. Manchester wasn't the only place where there were agitators. Over in Newcastle, this sort of thing was happening too. Again, this is one of those weird ECHR things where no matter what, you need to make accommodations for all protests, even though it inevitably is going to lead to agitation like this. And to be honest with you, that's the sort of thing we've had forever. There's a reason that lefties absolutely love to bring Cable Street up, because frankly, pretty much everyone is agging for a fight now, and I don't think that's a particularly stable place to be in. And the simple answer to all this is effectively get rid of all illegals, get rid of all foreign criminals, and bring immigration right down. That would be 3 pretty simple and fully justifiable steps to actually fix all this. Alas, it is still not happening. Anyway, over in Canary Wharf, you are seeing what I frankly think is the best type of protest you can have, which is effectively a whole bunch of women. Because I'm largely on David Starkey's side with this type of thing. When you have a protest that is largely women rather than a whole bunch of men, it largely comes across as women who are genuinely fearful and worried about issues going on in their community and local area, rather than a whole load of people looking to agitate. Again, this is a lot more about the marketing of protest, let's say, rather than what's actually happening. I have no doubt that there were many people, vast majority of the people, at the protests in Newcastle and Manchester who were worried about what immigration was doing to their local areas. Of course there are. The problems are happening everywhere. Anyway, Jack Hadfield was one of the great citizens journalists that we have in the modern era, and has been at the protest pretty much every day, recording what's going down at Canary Wharf outside the Britannia Hotel. And according to him, the police were arresting and bundling away a man into a van, and locals attested that officers actually kneed him in the face. It's unclear why he was actually arrested or what particular crime he committed, but honestly, this is quite typical of these protests. There seems to be an assumption that he didn't do anything, there's no reason for the arrest, but to be honest with you, when it comes to these large-scale demonstrations like this, if 1 or 2 people are getting arrested, typically, from what I've seen, they deserve it, but well, this is the Met Police after all, and trust in them is at rock bottom, so as I say, that's my initial instinct. However, I would definitely want to keep an eye on exactly why this person was particularly arrested and put into a van, and if he was kneed in the face, well, again, it depends what he did and was doing to deserve that. Because let's face it, if you're being violent towards the police while you're being arrested, that's going to happen. But if it was for no reason, yeah, get the officer out of that position. But Jack also had footage of, well, once again, people turning up on the anti-migrant side in balaclavas, hiding their face, and also apparently had red and white smoke canisters and England flags, obviously to show their patriotism. I say apparently, it's on screen right now. And again, it's a whole group of men, and again, it's all this ends up doing is undermining all the effort made by these women who are putting on a much more legitimate protest. If you turn up to a protest masked up, the only assumption people can make is that you are up to no good. And the reaction to this, obviously, was to set out a Section 42 order by the police, which was reported on by an awful lot of right-wing Twitter accounts, misunderstanding exactly what that was for. As Isabel Oakeshott is going to be my example here, police have just banned protests outside the Migrant Hotel in Canary Wharf for 28 days on the basis that the demos are causing residents of the hotel alarm and distress. What about the alarm and distress of the British people? Largely I'm on Isabel's side here, of course. However, as you can see here, there is a reader added context, a community note, basically saying the Met Police have clarified this, and it's over the specific group of protesters who are masked up with smoke bombs, or canisters, sorry, chanting outside the hotel, which obviously is not quite the same thing as the women dressed in pink singing Sweet Caroline. So in the Met Police clarifying statements, they said, "We've not banned protest outside the Britannia International Hotel in Canary Wharf. We continue to encourage those exercising their lawful right to protest to do so responsibly. Anyone who crossed the line from lawful protest into criminality can expect to face police action." Officers policed a protest for a considerable time today, but a group remained who were harassing occupants of the hotel and staff, trying to prevent people accessing the hotel to make deliveries, and making concerted efforts to breach the fencing and access the hotel. Their actions went well beyond protest to harassment, and we will use powers under the Criminal Justice and Police Act 2001 to order that specific group to leave and not return for 28 days. Honestly, makes some sense to me at the very least, but Isabel Oakeshott was not fully having this, as she had another tweet saying, "Here are the police very definitely not telling people at the Migrant Hotel protest yesterday that they'll be arrested if they return within 28 days, just for the avoidance of doubt."
There's a section 42, section 42 in place of the 2001. You're causing distress or harm to the resident of this hotel. Yeah, you have to leave now and not return within 28 days to this area. If you don't, you will be arrested.
Now, I'm not exactly sure who he's talking to, though he is quite calm and collected speaking about that, and honestly it sounds like women on the other side of the camera. Now, it could be the case that not all these officers got the message properly and didn't realise that this was an order just for the masked up men who were causing a ruckus with smoke bombs and things like that. You can still see in the background some of the smoke is still dissipating. So some of these officers may have taken on the message as this is applying to everyone rather than just that specific group, and this is probably why the Met Police needed to come out and clarify their statement. Or they were just hoping, obviously, to get away with trying to tell everyone they need to go away. That is also a possibility. But I'm still in the mindset of being somewhat charitable here. You can call that a mistake on my part if you wish, but ultimately it doesn't really matter if I'm charitable or not. One thing I do know is that I think absolutely everyone on the anti-migrant side does have righteous anger, and is very much the moral actor in this argument. Because we're going to go through a few things that happened just this weekend that have rightly irritated people to no end. Because this is all alleged, by the way. There were people who arrived at the hotel the day before this who managed to get mopeds with learner plates and who quite clearly have food delivery boxes on the back of their mopeds, and the police and security are trying to let them out, and obviously the locals are saying no, they shouldn't even be working. In fact, no, they shouldn't even be in this country, let alone working. Now, the Met Police story is that these were not people who were staying at the hotel, they were simply people delivering to the hotel, which then begs the question, why do these illegal migrants have the money for takeaways? Unless, obviously, it's being delivered to the staff. That's also an entire possibility. But it's quite clear that there were people there who were not willing to allow them to go until they were obviously dispersed. Probably part of the reason for the Section 42 order, by the way. There was also an Uber Eats cyclist who, for some reason in the middle of a summer's day in London, had a full balaclava on, hiding his identity, and obviously this made people like Max Tempers assume that this was an illegal delivery driver for Uber Eats. And he's getting a full police escort because obviously cycling through this crowd of masked up men who are anti-migrant is exactly the sort of place I'd expect a police escort for someone like that. However, once again, it's giving really the wrong impression of what the police are for. I have no idea if this guy's working illegally. I have no idea if this guy's an asylum seeker. We have no idea what the guy behind the mask actually is. But there's a hell of a lot of assumptions going around because of the absolutely crazy things we've seen. And again, this isn't the worst thing we've seen this weekend. But anyway, there was a bit of a story behind this one. Because Nick Timothy MP, quote tweeting Max Tempers, said, "This sums it all up. The Home Office pretends it gets tough with companies that depend entirely on illegal immigration, but doesn't. The police, do they even know the law, facilitate illegal working? Is the state working for us, or for the people leeching off us? I don't know, Nick Timothy, but your party was in government for the last 14 years, so they could have done something about this." And as you can see, the Met Police replied with, "This person was delivering to the hotel. They were not accommodated there. There was no evidence to suggest that they were working illegally. They were surrounded and intimidated by those gathered outside, and officers intervened to make sure that they got away safely." Again, it's all down to assumptions that this guy's working illegally, but again, it's not entirely unreasonable. Thames Water's own commissioned research has found that there's probably about 1 in 12 people living illegally in London. The amazing part is that BBC Radio 4 fact-checked that and said, oh no, that's completely wrong. We actually looked at the evidence and it looks like it's actually closer to 1 in 15, but it could still be 1 in 12. Which is somehow a meaningful fact check. Yes, newspapers put the worst case scenario out there, but 1 in 15 is effectively no better than 1 in 12, because obviously the number should be absolutely zero. And there's only one way this government's going to make it absolutely zero, and that's by basically making all of them legal. They're already streamlining the process to rubber stamp green ticks on all their applications. It's going to be a disaster. Anyway, an eagle-eyed Twitter user then asked the Met Police, what about these people leaving this morning? To which the Met Police said, actually, that was last night, not this morning. And the 2 people leaving were members of staff working at the hotel who were, as the incident this afternoon, subjected to unacceptable harassment by those waiting outside. I don't understand why members of staff would have food delivery vehicles. And again, this is all the police's own fault. A lot of these forces we know have lied to us in the past. We know that they throw their own officers under the bus when they apprehend criminals. We know that the police have lied to the general public before, over and over again. And even at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, even I don't believe that. And I'm usually quite trusting of police clarifying statements, but that one I find incredibly difficult to believe. Members of staff at the hotel have learner mopeds with food delivery boxes on the back of their mopeds. I'm sorry, this is London. I don't believe that. Typically, people in London will be taking the underground because it's about the only thing in London that works. But hey, it could be that the police are completely right here. Who knows? It's hard to tell these days. But it's why people are leaning more towards trusting alternative sources than the police or politicians from the Tories or Labour Party, or hell, even the Lib Dems. Anyway, speaking of trust when it comes to the police, there was a crazy incident somewhere, I think, in Liverpool, based off the accents, where the police let one of the protesters outside a hotel housing asylum seekers to see what's going on inside there, and he came out basically saying that it's all women and children in there.
No, I'm going in on my own, alright? Going on my own and I'll tell you the truth what's in there, alright? No lies anywhere, lads, no lies. I've just been in there. I've just been in there now. There's family and kids in there, and they're gonna try and keep the families and kids there. All that's been told is that there's men coming, but they're not 100% sure that men are coming in there. So, as I've said to them, it's not rioting. It's our protest to save our families. And this government that we have got are all corrupt. It's their fault we're in this position. They need to twist back off and sort Britain out again.
And for things I'm seeing all over Twitter, and honestly, I'm on this side too, basically this just looks like an undercover police officer that's been planted in the crowd, effectively to try and calm tensions. I guarantee there is nobody that believes him. Oh, I'm going in, lads, I'm going in. The police just happened to pick me out of everyone to go in, see what's going on in there. Oh, come back out, right? No lies whatsoever, right? All women and children in there. Families, I'm telling you. They don't know if men are coming, they're going to try and stop men coming, but honestly, trust me, bro, it's just women and families in there. Yeah, not buying it, to be honest with you. One guy? I don't think so. Maybe if you put 2 or 3 in there, yeah, maybe, but one guy you just happen to pick out at random, yeah, alright, whatever you say. Anyway, as mentioned before, I am largely on the side of these peaceful protests going on against these asylum hotels, because just this weekend we have had a number of crazy stories, and I'm going to start from the least worst to the worst, because every now and then you get videos like this where a security guard is, well, actually doing his job as a security guard. Usually this is in places like London, especially Marble Arch, where it's a bit more upmarket, and yes, you're caught shoplifting, you are being put on the ground, and you aren't going anywhere. That is until the rest of the migrants come in and start trying to help the one who is being apprehended by effectively, well, beating up the security guard to let him go. Again, this is the least worst, but there seems to be an awful lot of anecdotes, and now we're getting videos of it, of petty crime like shoplifting rising in areas, well, with migrants, frankly. I will stipulate this by saying when I worked in a supermarket, it was very much, well, native white boys who were usually caught shoplifting, but we're talking about something that was happening, oh god, 7-8 years ago. Awful lot changed under the last 5 years of the Tories, it really did. But again, I started with the least worst, where this is just from this weekend. We're getting a lot worse now. Migrant tried to kidnap a little girl, 10, while living in 3-star taxpayer-funded asylum hotel in Leafy suburb. Edris, oh god, Abdelrazig, was arrested for allegedly trying to lure away the girl while she was with her father. He did it while her father was present. Excuse me? So a migrant from a taxpayer-funded asylum hotel has been charged with attempting to kidnap a child, the Sun can reveal. The Sudanese man appeared in court accused of attempting to take a girl of 10 while she was with her father. Edris, I'm not reading that second name again, 30 in Stockport, Greater Manchester, was arrested for allegedly trying to lure away a girl on July 13. Last night the government called the charge deeply concerning, and he had been living in a 3-star hotel, £100 a night, in Leafy Manchester suburb, Wilmslow, which is relatively upper middle class, by the way. But a thing I found strange here is that I thought that this happened in Wilmslow. It didn't. It happened in Stockport, which is very strange because that means the migrant went from Wilmslow to Stockport, which is like a 3-hour walk away, 20-minute drive. The train isn't too much better, to be honest, at 30 odd minutes. It's a bit of a trek. And I'm basically making the point that I don't think he had any reason to go to Stockport unless, frankly, he had contacts there to do God knows what. You know, he could have been high on drugs trying to do this. I mean, why else do you try and kidnap a girl who's with her father? He appeared before JP's on July 15, which is short for Justice of the Peace, which is just magistrate. He was remanded in custody and to appear in Manchester Crown Court on August 26. And honestly, this is a case that I might keep an eye on, because Wilmslow's the type of place where footballers from Manchester City, Man United, even Liverpool live. It's a really upmarket area of Manchester. You know, it used to be Cheshire until boundaries changed. Hell, I'm pretty sure parts of Cheshire Housewives is filmed there. And look what the successive governments have done. They've allowed Sudanese freaks into the damn area who try and kidnap 10-year-olds in the well, not the next town over, in a few towns over. Absolutely maddening stuff. Literally mad that the government, successive governments, let's not let the Tories off in any case, mad that they have allowed things like this. And that nothing seems to happen to them. Why is it not just an instant deport for this guy? He's already here illegally, and now he's trying to kidnap 10-year-olds. Why is he still here? Anyway, if you thought that was bad, police cover up Afghan asylum seekers accused of raping girl. The Reform UK Council leader alleges that officials were told not to release details of 2 men arrested over the attack of a 12-year-old girl in Nuneaton. So this was in Warwickshire. And again, if I don't want to hear people saying don't vote for Reform UK, they're cooked and all this sort of thing. Do you know who would have helped with this cover-up? Labour councillors. Do you know who else has helped up with these cover-ups in the past? Tory councillors. Let's not pretend Reform UK are just like the others. No, they whistleblow this sort of thing. So police have been accused of risking public disorder by covering up the backgrounds of 2 Afghan asylum seekers charged over the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. Ahmed Mulakil was charged with rape and Mohammed Kabir with kidnap, strangulation and aiding and abetting the rape of a girl in Nuneaton, Warwickshire. Police allegedly told local politicians and officials not to reveal the background of the suspects for fear of inflaming community tensions. Mulakil, who crossed the English Channel on a small boat, oh my god, as if it wasn't bad enough we had hundreds of thousands of them brought over secretly under the last Tory government. No, these people came over on small boats. So we've got even more Afghans than who were secretly brought over. Allegedly raped the victim at a house on the evening of July 22. CCTV footage from nearby allegedly shows a man walking with a white girl 30 minutes before the alleged rape, the Mail on Sunday reported. Mulakil was arrested on July 26 and appeared at Coventry Magistrates Court 2 days later. Kabir was arrested on Thursday and appeared in court on Saturday. The men, both aged 23, were remanded in custody and appeared at Warwick Crown Court on August 26. Both men live in rented houses of multiple occupation on adjoining streets. Each provide accommodation for about 5 asylum seekers. The properties are managed by Cero, which has 1.9 million Home Office contracts and accommodates applicants for refugee status. This is what is happening instead of the hotels, by the way. This was Labour's answer. Just give billions of pounds out to Cero and other multinational asset managers to literally buy homes off local landlords who, by the way, are renting out sometimes to single mothers and veterans. There are veterans who've been kicked out and single mothers who've been kicked out of their own homes to then basically squeeze in a bunch of asylum seekers into these places. It's no wonder people are hugely annoyed at that alone. But then it turns out they're pushing alleged rapists in there too, which is obviously going to happen if you do not vet these people. This has been a problem for ages. This is why it's so popular to deport all these people. This is why pretty much every time there is a new hotel popping up, there is 100 people at least protesting outside them, because people do not want this risk in their area at all. Details of the alleged rape were not revealed by police until after the court appearance by the defendants. That's usual. The names of the roads where the men lived, which are normally disclosed, were kept secret. That isn't normal. One official claimed police feared Nuneaton would face protests similar to that of the migrant hotel in Epping, Essex. Well, we've had many more over the weekend as well. Last month, after an asylum seeker was charged with a sex offence relating to a girl aged 14, there were clashes on Saturday between protesters and counter-protesters outside the Thistle City Barbacon Hotel in Islington, North London. God, Islington too. I didn't even know that. Which is being used to house asylum seekers. 4 people were arrested during a similar protest outside Newbridge Hotel in Newcastle. George Finch, the leader of Warwickshire County Council and a Reform Party politician, has written to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, and Alex Franklin Smith, the Chief Constable of Warwickshire, complaining about the cover-up. He asked the Home Office to immediately remove and rehouse all asylum seekers living in HMOs in Warwickshire, and he wrote that our local community has had enough of the Home Office breaking planning regulation to turn sections of local communities into unrecognisable ghetto-like zones. What a great way to put it. Thank you, George Finch, who, by the way, is the 18-year-old everyone was saying would be a completely useless leader of the council. Well, you know what? That letter alone, I'm already impressed with pretty much every other council leader that I know. But unfortunately, there is really very little more that councils can do in this case. All they can do is ask for these asylum seekers to be moved out, and I believe they're going to try and use lawfare in the homes of multiple occupants, because usually they do break planning regulation. And ultimately, if all you can do is use lawfare, then use lawfare against the government. Totally fine with that to get asylum seekers out of the damn country. But really, what are the government doing about this? Well, they're obviously supporting the police and basically taking everything they say at their word, despite the fact that we keep having reason to not believe the police. But also, the government just seems to have given up on trying to actually smash the gangs and seem to now be trying to regulate them. As the Home Office posted this yesterday, under new laws it will be a criminal offence to promote small boat crossing on social media, and that includes migrants paid by smuggling gangs to film their journey and encourage others to join them. Step by step we will dismantle the business model behind immigration crime. Do you think they care, and do you think they really expect you to check their phones and check their accounts to see if they're doing this? Or do you think what's going to happen is they're going to record it, save it, send it to the people who make these adverts, and then delete their accounts, and then you've got no evidence that that was ever actually on their phone? Do you not think there are simple ways around this? Do you not think just turning around the boats in the channel is the best way to go about this? No, of course they don't. They have no plan for this because they can't do anything because their hands are tied by the ECHR, which they don't want to leave because Starmer is the most ridiculous human rights lawyer ever. This, along with limiting the amount of people per boat to 80, it just goes to show how unserious this government is. How are you stopping the boats, Mr. Starmer? Oh, well, we've got an advertising ban. Incredible. This will have no effect whatsoever. We're going to have 100,000 illegals coming over this year, and it's going to be horrendous. Anyway, because it's been a completely steaming failure for the government yet again, Keir Starmer had to post on Twitter, "I will use every tool at my disposal to secure our borders. We're investing in our border security command. Extra officers and new tech will smash the gangs, putting lives at risk in the channel. That's my plan for change in action." And what have I seen for the past few weeks? Oh, well, you see, we're actually doing that by regulating it to 80 per boat, and we're stopping advertising, which you can't do anyway because that's obviously a completely unenforceable law. Just incredible. There's no trust in the government. Obviously, everyone wants a complete regime change. It's not going to happen. We've got this for another 4 years. And all that's going to happen is that it's going to kick off more and more and more and more because people are getting more and more angry. I can't imagine it getting any wider than localised violence. Obviously, there's going to be a massive amount of protests. I'm completely against all that violence, of course. But ultimately, what do you expect from people who've been voting for the same thing for 14 years, voted one more time for change, and now they have to deal with the fact that that's not happening for another 4 years? God knows. Anyway, that is your Monday Black Pill. If you enjoy what I do, please do subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Great ways to help out the channel. And if you also wish, you can become a member or leave super chats, super thanks. Great ways to help out the channel and directly help monetize it. As for streams this week, we have Tosh News over on the Worcester Club on Tuesday, Hollow Knight on Thursday, and Laughing at the Guardian Saturday, so do come along to all of them. Videos out as and when I can make them. Right, with that, that's everything I had for you for today. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.